What is up everyone? Today I want to show you how you can install the newest release of FreeNAS, which is 11.1 at this moment, on a bare metal DIY NAS build that I put together myself. I will leave a link to the whole build in the description, and I will run you through the whole process of creating a bootable USB drive with FreeNAS on it and how to boot from your NAS system, and we will go step by step through the whole installation process. It will be quite a bit different from just installing it as a VirtualBox machine for training purposes, because you will actually see what you need to do and what you need to consider if you are installing it on a bare metal device instead of a virtual machine. Alright, so first things first we go to the FreeNAS homepage and we will download the FreeNAS ISO file. So just click on download, sign up for the newsletter or not, and click on download. We're gonna save the file, and it's around 602 megabyte. I already downloaded it, so I won't do it again. And it's version 11.1 minus U2 at this moment, so that you get an idea of which version we are going to use. If we take a step back here, you can see that FreeNAS requires a 64-bit CPU and a minimum of 8 gigs of RAM. So be aware of that before you plan to install it on one of your devices. Once that is done, go ahead and download a tool called Rufus, which is to create a bootable USB stick. It is a good tool. I used it in the past many times. So just go ahead and download that. Just Google it, you will find it. And then select your thumb drive that is already in your computer, I hope. Make sure you don't need to save any data on it, because everything will get deleted. And then give it a label as you wish. I called it FreeNAS. Then click on the select image tool here and go to your downloads folder and download the FreeNAS or select the FreeNAS ISO file you just downloaded and click on open. I already created the stick, so I won't do it again. And then simply click on start and confirm all the dialogues that you agree that everything will get deleted. Actually, let's do it again. Why not? Who cares? Right, so you will see every step. Let's click on start, and it asks you that you have selected an ISO hybrid image. This means it can be either written in ISO or in DD image. We're going to choose ISO mode. Then you get a warning that all data will be destroyed. Okay. And when I first did this, there was also a message about the group bootloader, that there is a newer version available, I believe, and if I want to download it, I did download it and included it in the ISO file automatically. So I'll be back in a couple of seconds when this is... Actually, it goes very fast, so maybe we can just wait. It took a couple more seconds to finish the process, and now the USB drive is created and you can take it and put it into your NAS. In the meanwhile, I will go to my lab and put my NAS into the lab, and I will record from there with the camera so I can guide you through each step of the installation. So be right back from the other room. Alright guys, now we are back here in the lab, and I just attached my NAS and I put the USB thumb drive into the back of the NAS, not in the side slot, because it won't boot from the side slot. So put it in the back, and then we are going to switch it on. So I try to make it readable for you, because now I'm recording with my camera in the lab. And then you just switch your NAS on and enter the boot menu. For my asrock mainboard, it's pressing 11 while it's booting. Press F11, and then we see all the boot devices, and we can see that I hope you can read it pretty. Yeah, that looks pretty decent. And you can see that this is the SSD drive where I'm going to install FreeNAS on, and then we have four terabyte drives, which will be our RAID later on. So we are going to boot from USB. As you can see, this is our USB drive. Yours will be probably having a different name. So let's boot from that, and the FreeNAS installer should come up, and we are going to select the FreeNAS installer and hit enter, or just wait until the time was running down. Now it's loading the installation. So I previously had FreeNAS installed on this device already, but I wanted to start fresh, and that's exactly what we are going to do. You can also upgrade a previous version with this way, overbooting with USB instead of using the web console if you prefer that. So go on install upgrade, then select the drive where FreeNAS should be installed on. In our case that's the SSD drive. Then just hit enter. And then you can choose that you either want to upgrade or fresh install. In our case we are going to fresh install. Then you get asked if you want to preserve your previous file system or if you want to format the boot device and completely start from scratch. But be aware that everything will be deleted. There your data will be probably lost if you do that option. And then we are choosing yes, that we are aware of that. Everything gets deleted. And we are entering a strong admin password. Quickly do that. Hit enter. And then it's written that BIOS mode is recommended for legacy and enterprise hardware, whereas UEFI may be required for newer consumer motherboards. I try UEFI now because I think previously I had legacy. So let's just try that if it's working. Okay, now the installation routine will run through, and we'll stop the video right here, and we'll be back in a couple of maybe seconds, maybe minutes. I think it's done fairly quick. Alright, it took approximately 2 minutes for the installation to finish. Just hit OK to reboot the system. Select reboot system and just remove the boot device or the thumb drive, or just leave it in there because probably won't boot from it if you don't select it, but that's what we will find out in a couple of seconds. That looks good. It's already booting into FreeNAS. Should only take a little time. I was using version 9.10 U2 previously because I didn't want to upgrade to 11 point whatever, because I've read a couple of stories that it didn't work. So I choose to back up all my data and start from scratch, do a completely fresh install of it. I also had Plex media server on there and stuff like this. And we will go through all of that, how to reinstall it again and how to set up our first shares and stuff like this in this video series. I will probably split it into a couple of videos, otherwise it will get too long. So let's see how long it's going to take. I'm gonna pause the video again until we need to interact somehow. You can see there that it's received a address from DHCP already, and a couple of seconds later here we are in the initial menu. We can already access it over the web browser, as you can see right here. It automatically got the IP from DHCP, and you could already configure it from here, but I want to change its IP address because I want to have it in a different subnet or a different VLAN better. So we are going to press 1 to configure network interfaces. If you don't need to change the IP address and if you're fine with DHCP, you can just leave it as it is and continue after we are back on the computer and we are entering the web interface. You don't need to give it a static IP, but I highly recommend you to do it. So we are going to choose, I think it's IGB0. Let's have a look if that's written somewhere, but I think it is IGB0 which we are using. We don't need to reset it. We don't want to configure it for DHCP either. We want to configure a static IPv4 address, and we give the interface a name, whatever, can basically leave at the default name. And then we are choosing a IP address, which in my case will be this one, subnet mask, and save Now we don't want to configure IPv6, restarting network, and you can see we have now changed the IP address, and that's all I will do in here. Now I will go back and bring the NAS back into the other room where it belongs, and will access the web interface, and as you can see it's this one. So note down that IP, leave your NAS where it is or replace it however you want it, and then we go back to the computer. Alright, I just reattached the NAS to the place where it belongs and booted it up and already checked a ping on it. So you are now going to enter the IP address of your NAS that was written on the screen before into your browser, hit enter, and you should come to the login screen. You will get a prompt that you should enter your root password which you previously assigned, so enter that and click on OK, and you will end up here. There will be a pop-up for a initial configuration wizard. Just cancel that, we will not need it, and we will instead we will go through the steps manually, so you already know where to find those options. So the first thing you want to do is click on System, go to General, and then change a couple of things. One of them will be the language. If you want to change it, you can do that here. They have a couple of languages supported. A console keyboard map. In my case, I'm going for the German version. And a time zone. In my case, it will be Europe, Berlin. Alright. Then you could enter a syslog server, but that's advanced stuff which we will cover later. Just click on save for now. Alright, and if you didn't choose to use DHCP but a static IP address, we now still need to assign the default gateway. So the next thing we are going to do is we go to Network, Global Configuration, and we enter the default gateway, which is the IP address of your router. So I'm entering mine, which is this one. You can choose a domain if you want to, and you can change the host name. For now I leave it on default, and also enter the name server, which is also the IP address of your router. And I think, yeah, that looks good. Click on save. And now we can try that by, if the internet connection is working, we will try that by trying to run an update. So go back to System, go back to General, and you can choose it here too, so go on Update here and click on Check Now. No updates available, so it has an internet connection, all is working fine. Here you can, by the way, choose which kind of updates repository you want to run. I'll recommend leaving it on stable because that's perfectly fine. And the next thing we are going to do is we are going to create our first volume. Alright, so go to, where is it, storage, and go to the volume manager. So we will name the volume, give it a name, whatever you want. I'm going to name it Andromeda out of no particular reason at all. And then you are going to drag the slider here until you select all your drives that you want to use, and then you can choose the RAID Z system, or you can choose a mirror. So I recommend you read a little bit about what the differences between RAID Z and RAID Z2 are. For RAID Z2 you need at least 4 hard drives, and for RAID Z you need at least 3 hard drives. So generally speaking, if you choose RAID Z, you can see the estimated capacity. As I said, I have 3 terabyte drives, so you can see that actually one drive is missing here with the capacity. And you can choose RAID Z if you are not saving any sensitive data on the NAS. It gives you more storage. If you choose RAID Z2, it's safer. So if one hard drive dies, it's not big of a problem in RAID Z2 because there is more security here for another drive dying. So if you have RAID Z1 and one drive dies, you can replace it and will be still fine, but if another drive dies at the same time, your data will be lost. So generally speaking, use RAID Z if you do additional backups of your important data, and use RAID Z2 if the data integrity or the safety of your data is more important. So you have to narrow down, of course, more security or more storage space. In my case, I need more storage space because I back up my important data anyway. Okay, so then click on add volume and be sure that all existing data will be cleared, all your drives will be wiped. So click on yes. Now your NAS will be working and building the RAID, and after a couple of seconds you can see that the Andromeda share or the Andromeda volume popped up here, and next we are going to create a dataset. So this is basically you creating your first shared volume, or a volume that you want to create a share on, let's say. So I am going to create my own, which I will name like this. You can add a comment if you want. We leave sync on inherit default, and we will leave the compression level also on LZ4. You can choose a different one if you need to. You see there is faster ones, but I leave it as the recommended value LZ4. And then we choose a share type. In my case, I want to have a Windows share, so I select it here and I click on add dataset. Alright, then we can extend it here and we see our dataset, and we can now change the permissions to it and we can give it a user, but that's what we will do next. We will create a user. Actually, let's go ahead and create a group first, because we will need a group anyway. So go to groups and click on add group and just leave it on the ID, it doesn't matter. And we give it a name. Shares. Let's do it for now like this. Alright, so we have a group. Next we are going to create a user. In my case, I put my own name, and we don't want to create a group for the user. We choose our just created shares group. And the home directory we can leave as it is, it doesn't matter. Full name, you can put an email address if you want, and then we're going to give it a password. Gonna just paste my password in there. The rest we will leave on default, and we also need to add the auxiliary group shares, so we're gonna do that. Click on OK. And we have that done. Then we are going to create a dataset in our Andromeda volume, and we name it, in this case I name it my name and share, and then we want share type Windows. For a Windows file share, you can choose otherwise if you need to. Compression level we leave on default on LZ4, that's also the recommended value here. And everything else stays on default, and we click add dataset. Okay, so far so good. The next thing is we're going to change the permissions of the dataset we just created, which you can find here now. Let's make a little bit more space in there. Click on change permissions and give it the owner to the created user, or to the user that you just created. Apply owner group to, and the owner group will be the shares group we also just created, and everything here we can leave on default. Now the owner, which is my user, has full permissions, and the group has just read and execute permissions. Alright, this we leave on Windows. Click on change, and then finally we are going to add a share. So let's close this again, go to sharing, and we are going to use a Windows share. and we are going to add a Windows SMB share. So to select the path, we need to select our dataset, which we just created. This one we don't need. Then we can give it a name, and I will name it exactly like it is here. We don't want to allow guest access, and we apply the default permissions. Click on OK. And then would you like to enable the servers? Yes, we would like to enable the SMB servers. Okay, that's fine. You can also have a look on all of the other services here, but that's irrelevant for now. We will look at that later. And finally, we are going to add the share to our computer. So open a Explorer by pressing the Windows button +E, and then click on Map Network Drive. Then you choose a letter for the drive, whatever you want. Choose S, and you navigate to the IP address or the fully qualified domain name of your NAS. In my case, it's this IP. And then we have the name of the share, which is this one. And you want to reconnect at sign-in, so it automatically connects the drive again after you reboot. And you also want to click connect using different credentials, because we need to use the other credentials. And you can use a different account then, enter the username that you created, and finally password. Remember my credentials, click on OK. And as you can see, the share was connected successfully. Let's try if we can create something in here. Test. Perfect, and it's working. So this is really everything I want to cover in this video. I think it's fairly enough for one video. One of the next videos will be to create or how to install Plex. Then I'm planning to do another video on how to create a virtual machine, and I will show you a couple of advanced options like backups and how to set it up that everything is working fine just automatically. We will add some jobs to automatically clean the file system and stuff like this. So definitely stay tuned for the new videos, and also subscribe to the channel if you liked that video. Leave a comment below as well and give it a thumbs up. I will also do a written article about this as soon as I get around to it. Just check the website cosec.com and sign up there for the newsletter. Alright, that's it. I hope it helped, and see you on the next one.